In 2005, writer Neil Strauss published a handy little book called The Game, which was all about the pickup artist community, aka the men who use emotional manipulation tactics to hit on women. Since this book came out, pickup artists have embraced the internet and evolved alongside it, harnessing new technologies as part of their strategy to hit on women and share tips with their followers. Like on Reddit, where their subreddit is very off-puttingly called Seduction, or their many, many, many popular social media and YouTube channels where they film themselves approaching women in public, trying to get a phone number and almost always failing. This particular technique is called a cold approach. And when you search that term into YouTube, you'll find hours upon hours of cringe videos of men cold approaching women and being rejected. They make these cold approach videos by getting a friend to awkwardly follow them around or basically hide in a bush and film them. Here's a montage I've pulled together that I'm calling Pickup Artist Fail Cringe Compilation.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to get the 9s and the 10s. Those hot girls often come with their own challenges. They're more feisty, more fiery, they can test you a lot more. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to disarm those girls and how to get them attracted to you. Hey, do you speak English?
Yes.
Fucking great. No, I was just walking to meet my business partner. I was about to light my cigar, but I saw you walking.
Okay.
And you looked like a polar bear.
Oh, well, that's a bit rude. Calling me fat.
I've personally done thousands of cold approaches in my life, and I've been rejected most of them.
Hi, you look cool.
Thank you.
Wait, before you go. Talk to me.
No.
Bye. Hey, sorry. You're not from here? Okay, bye-bye.
Excuse me. Hi, you speak English?
Yeah.
Oh, where you going? Excuse me. Hi, do you speak English? You probably wonder why I've come over to you. I'll be transparent about it. I'm looking for a beautiful girl to go on a date with this week. Because I just like to say how it is. I refuse to use dating apps. So I think they're damaging for society.
Well, that's very flattering, but I'm engaged.
Oh, you're engaged? Oh, I'm not sure how we're going to work this one out.
So yeah, it's difficult to watch. And the saddest thing is these men have been sold a lie. The techniques that pickup artistry teaches do not work on women. We think it's lame and it's often just harassment. Fellas, this isn't how to get women to like you. I'm going to be so real with you here. To me, the sexiest thing is when a guy is wearing a backpack and he has that tiny little buckle across his chest. So dreamy. But pickup artistry hasn't ever really been about what women want. It's about the men and what they get from it. The pickup artists on YouTube are very popular. Cold approach videos often get hundreds of thousands of views, but there's a whole element to this that sticks out to me, and it's that they're filming women in public without their consent and uploading it online. But now they've graduated from getting their buddy to film them in a bush to wearing Meta smart glasses, Mark Zuckerberg's new invention. Meta have teamed up with Ray-Ban to create AI glasses that video record your point of view as you wear them. Women being filmed without their consent are no longer being captured from a distance. Now it's in high definition, clearly capturing their face as they reject the man speaking to them, completely unaware that he's filming the entire thing. When I started making this episode, I knew I wanted to speak to a man who had filmed one of these cold approach videos. I ended up speaking to two men, and what I finished with was such an interesting insight into masculinity online, and I cannot wait to tell you all about it. Welcome to the weird world of pickup artistry. It's not what you think. I'm lilyofarrell, and this is No Worries If Not, a podcast about women and internet culture. The Masculinity Grift and Meta smart glasses. For background, I'm going to give you a very brief history of pickup artists. So Neil Strauss published his book in the noughties, the non-fiction book The Game, Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists. I feel like he didn't have to use the word penetrating there. It's an unnecessary innuendo. Anyway, it sold millions of copies, and it's basically a how-to guide for picking up women, using the pickup artist's methods that he learned. But it's pitched very cleverly because Neil Strauss frames himself as a journalist observing these men from the outside. But really, he's in on it. Here's an extract from the blurb. Hidden somewhere in nearly every major city in the world is an underground seduction lair, and in these lairs, men trade the most devastatingly effective techniques ever invented to charm women. On his journey from an average frustrated chump to pickup artist and guru, Strauss shares scores of original seduction techniques. The game is the story of one man's transformation from frog to prince in the most unforgettable book of the year. Pickup artists existed before this book came out, but the game is what made people aware of them in mainstream culture. And if you're a woman who was a teenager or young adult in the 2010s, there are certain techniques that might have been used on you that you didn't even know were popularized by this book. Like negging, where a man will give you a backhanded compliment in order to lower your self-esteem and remove the so-called bitch shield. The idea is that if you make the woman feel insecure, she'll be more likely to go out with you. An example of negging might be, "You're way too pretty to wear that much makeup," or "I usually go for skinnier girls, but you have a really nice face." Ring any bells? Yeah. Another pickup artist technique is cavemanning, where, to quote the game, a man will directly and aggressively escalate physical contact. There was a period I remember really viscerally where men would do this by going up to women in bars and asking to twirl them around like you're a toy ballerina in a jewelry box. So, in case you hadn't noticed, the game is awful. Pickup artistry is awful. And look, I'm not opposed to talking to someone in public who you find attractive. I am all for getting off the apps and meeting people in real life. But pickup artistry is built on emotional manipulation. It's misogynistic and dehumanizing in how it assumes women are like IKEA flat pack furniture where one instruction manual works for all of us. And many of these men have a deep sense of entitlement towards sex, like it's something they're owed, which is why it's not a surprise that pickup artistry can often act as a gateway to more extreme misogynistic content online, particularly because when the techniques you're told work like magic on women in fact don't work, these men start to resent the women rejecting them, as opposed to, self-reflecting. Neil Strauss has now distanced himself from the game, acknowledging its sexist content, and his career transitioned into, you guessed it, self-help. He runs self-development workshops for men and preaches about how much he just loves being a one woman at a time kind of guy. After the success of the game, there was a TV program called The Pickup Artist, where a seduction coach would teach socially awkward men how to pick up women, and the men would compete in challenges by approaching women in public with the aim of improving their self-confidence. Then came the fictional characters, like Ryan Gosling in Crazy Stupid Love or Barney in How I Met Your Mother. But maybe the most popular pickup artist of all time is Will Smith as Alex Hitchens in the movie Hitch. And later, I'll be speaking to his biggest fan, the founder of Hitch Academy. But first, I wanted to learn more about the new technology that pickup artists are incorporating into their game and their content online. Meta smart glasses. Why are they allowed? Is this legal? And what are the stakes involved when a man films and uploads a video of a woman without her consent?
So I'm Clare McGlynn, and I'm a professor of law at Durham University. And for the last 10 or so years, most of my work has been around online abuse. So that's the kind of harassment, cyberbullying, image-based abuse that women and girls face.
This is Clare. She is truly the GOAT of fighting online abuse. You might recognize her voice because she's often on the radio talking about deepfake porn or similar kinds of abuse affecting women. Clare was part of the recent campaign that made deepfake porn illegal. If you don't know what a deepfake is, imagine someone takes your face without consent, just from a photo on Instagram or something, and puts it on the body of a naked woman in a sexually explicit photo or video, creating an image of you that looks very realistic. Making this kind of content was only made illegal in the UK this year. I asked her to tell me more about Meta smart glasses and how big of a threat they pose to women.
So Meta smart glasses are the latest kind of trendy tech, for the man or the boy about town who has everything and wants the latest new gadget. They're made by Ray-Ban. So, they look quite good, but they also now have AI voice assistants in them as well. Some of this can be really useful. Particularly people who are visually impaired. These glasses can make a huge difference because, for example, you could walk into a room and your smart glasses can start telling you about the room. So, tech can be used for good. It really can. But what's happening with smart glasses, because you can record, is that people are using them to record other people in public without their consent. At the moment, we can identify what looks like smart glasses. But actually, in a year, 2 years' time, it's possibly going to be quite difficult to tell because there'll be so many different types of the glasses and people will start customizing them so that they don't look like smart glasses.
There's a feature built into the glasses where if you're recording, there's a tiny white light that flashes on the front. But if you Google Meta Smart Glasses, one of the first YouTube videos that comes up is how to disable this feature so you can film people in secret. Claire said she also found some kits on Amazon that you can order to disable this feature too. I asked Claire what the law in the UK says about this. Like, if a pickup artist was wearing these glasses, recording his cold approach video in London, and then uploading it to YouTube, would he be in legal trouble?
So it's not unlawful to film in public people without their consent. And if you think about it, that makes absolute sense because any one of us could be in a park and we're filming our friends and there just happens to be people in the background. The problem obviously comes when this material is then used for other purposes. So in other words, you're kind of deliberately filming that person without their consent to use it in other ways. That's when the problems start. What we're talking about here is the reality of these glasses being used to abuse and harass women and girls. Basically, very few laws, the criminal law included, is not designed to deal with the sorts of harms and abuse we face. We're always having to fit ourselves into the existing categories of the law. And that's then tenfold more when you're talking about technology. So I think if someone's deliberately filming you in, say, a park without your consent, and they're doing so intending to upload it, say, to YouTube, to a site where A, they're making money, but B, they also know that these women are going to face kind of harassment and abuse and derogatory comments and all sorts. I do think that is a form of harassment that could be prosecuted under existing laws. I'm not saying it will easily be because the police probably won't take it seriously, but I'm saying that it could be because of that intention of the person who's doing the filming.
Claire said this public order offence was used in a Scottish case, where a pickup artist was harassing women at the bus stop, trying to kiss them and blocking their movement. There's a name for this in the pickup artist world. It's called front stopping, where you step in front of a woman, physically blocking her path. It stops her in her tracks, so she has to acknowledge you. The pickup artist actually appealed his case and he won.
The actual male judges talked about this being compliments of the girls and it was not obviously threatening. And it was just such a good example of the different worlds people live in. Because as far as I'm concerned, of course it's threatening. So that's to explain again that there are existing laws around threatening behavior in public, but that's not necessarily mean that it would get prosecuted.
It's not that tech bros like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have just forgotten that the abuse of women exists. They know that their products are weaponized by men, yet they actively turn their back on women as they pursue profits instead. But really, they should be building preventative features into their products before releasing them out into the world. Or, they could just take a day off from being money-hoarding creeps. When I started speaking to people about deepfakes and the threat this new technology posed to women, I noticed this knee-jerk response that was like, oh, people won't do that, will they? Surely not. And it felt like the tech equivalent of the skepticism we have towards victims of sexual violence. Like, he wouldn't do that, he's not like that, or are you sure you're remembering that correctly? And yet, 99% of deepfakes are depicting women. So when Meta Smart Glasses came out, experts like Claire rightly sounded the alarm. She also took on Elon Musk recently after men were using Grok, Twitter's built-in AI chatbot, to create deepfake porn of women. The way this works is, say you uploaded a selfie to Twitter, someone could reply to the tweet and ask Grok to alter the image. I'll let Claire explain the rest.
So they would then start doing all sorts of different things, make my mum look like a cat or something like that. But then, of course, it turned darker. And people started saying, put her in a bikini, put her in underwear. There's all sorts of words they'd use to mimic putting semen on her. And just this morning, I saw that the New York Times has now published some statistics. 1.8 million sexual images they anticipate over a period of 2 or 3 weeks were created.
When I asked Claire about pickup artists filming women without their consent and uploading it online, her concern was what would be done with that footage.
So a woman who's filmed without her consent and say it's then put online, someone could yet then take that video and turn it into a pornographic video that is then shared far wider, and she's got no control over that. So it could be made into a deep fake pornographic video. But it can also be that she's then subjected to harassment and abuse. Sometimes people will track those women down, they'll find their social media, they'll share their social media, and then there's, the risk of stalking. I also anticipate that people will be putting nudify technology into these glasses as well. So you'll have someone, again, you could be standing in the queue to buy your coffee, and the person next to you, he's wearing smart glasses, and he can be nudifying you. And then that could be recorded and shared and all the rest of it.
Often, women will change their behavior to accommodate the threat of men. Like, we won't go out alone when it's dark, or in the summer, we'll wear a shirt over our vest on public transport so no one harasses us. But now, as technology advances and men are exploiting it, women are again having to adapt their behavior accordingly.
I've seen women talking about this in the gym context particularly, and they're wearing baseball caps. And so pulling the baseball caps right over their faces so that you can film them, but you can't really see their face or their eyes very well. So much of this is just currency amongst groups of men to build their status and their kudos and to make money. But they're using women and women's bodies and women's safety and freedom to do that.
So what do you do if you think you're being filmed? Look, I'm not going to tell you to go up to the guy filming and say that you don't consent, because he might be dangerous and I can't be sure if it's safe. And like Claire said, women are already finding ways around this by hiding their faces. In the UK, the law is just starting to catch up. And in the last few months, thanks to the hard work of campaigning groups like the End Violence Against Women Coalition, a new law was passed that says social media platforms have to remove deepfake porn within 48 hours of it being reported, or they'll be fined. We'll all be watching closely to see if that law is actually enforced. So now I've set you up with all this knowledge about Meta smart glasses, online abuse, and the weird world of pickup artists. Shall we actually speak to some of the men who make these kinds of videos?
My name is Michael Asibul. I guess I'm referred as a dating coach, but I really see myself as a transformation coach with just helping my clients become the best version of themselves. And that's essentially what I do for a living.
Remember the movie I mentioned earlier, Hitch, starring Will Smith as a pickup artist? Well, Mike loves this film. It's his absolute favorite. He even named his business Hitch Academy. And the New York Times recently published a piece on him titled Meet the Real Life Hitch.
I'm a former professional football player, so fitness is always going to be who I am and, my routine and my discipline. But essentially how I became, this dating coach or transformation coach was just the evolution of training my clients through fitness, where I noticed whether it was men or women, after, they came to me to improve their health, feel more confident about themselves, get in the best shape of their life. After we accomplished that, I realized that there was still an aspect of them that was not healed. And a lot of my clients confided in me. And it was through all those years where I just sat down, listened, and tried to just give things that I personally went through, I personally lived, that I know advice I give my female friends or my guy friends that worked for them to my clients. And lo and behold, it worked for them. So that's how I kind of stumbled into everything I am doing today.
I asked Mike, why Hitch? Why does he love this film so much?
Hitch is my favorite movie of all time. I love Will Smith. I love his acting skills. He's very charismatic. And growing up watching that movie, I've always found it so fascinating how there's a lot of men that didn't have that self-belief, and he was able to help them believe in themselves and help them get out of their own way and actually put in the effort, put in the work. I love love. I love companionship. So that film really spoke to me because that's what he was doing as his life job, that's his life goal, and just helping people. I think I really do enjoy helping people. So I got a lot of inspo from that movie for sure.
I was a little bit surprised by this because the moral message at the end of Hitch, spoiler, is that Will Smith's character learns to drop the act and fall in love authentically without any games or any tricks. The same is true for Ryan Gosling's character in Crazy Stupid Love. So I asked him, how do you feel about the message of these films? Does it undermine your profession? His business is called Hitch Academy after all.
Love that question in the year of 2026. An amazing question, a very controversial question. Let's answer it. So, I believe everyone should be authentic, right? I always preach for all my clients and everyone to just be themselves, but you have to also be able to be yourself and also improve on yourself as well. Typically, what I'm speaking out loud or online or to my clients in private is just understanding women's need, what they actually want from you, what they're attracted to, and go about it in that way. And obviously in Hitch, the movie, he realized at the end that it's not so much about the tricks of what these men need to adopt in order to have a better chance with whoever, but it's really being able to just understand how to provide better, how to lead better.
Okay, so be yourself, but a better version. I tend to stiffen up when someone uses language like this about men providing and leading. If I was making a bingo card for an alpha male podcast bro, these words would be on it. But unlike Will Smith's character in Hitch, Mike says he's not a pickup artist, and it does seem like his work goes a little deeper than just giving men one-liners like, "You're too pretty to be reading a book," or whatever. He has dabbled in pickup artist trends though, and I know that because that's how I found him. On YouTube, doing a cold approach video filming women with Meta smart glasses.
I'm going to ask out 100 girls on a date as an introvert to get over the fear of rejection. I bought the Meta Ray-Ban glasses so I can record this entire experience.
I humiliate myself for some content. I have a question. Where are you from? What's your ethnicity? Paris. Would you go on a date with me?
There are lots of male content creators who aren't self-proclaimed pickup artists making pickup artist content. And that's because the culture has completely leaked out into the mainstream, infecting even the most generic-looking dating advice you get on TikTok. I had a bunch of questions about Mike's cold approach video.
I decided to embark on this challenge to cold approach, as many people as I definitely can, and just spark interaction, spark interest, see what it actually looks like, see how it feels. Because a lot of the question I would get from men is, how do I cold approach? And then I'd be like, good question. And to my surprise, I realized that it wasn't easy for me to conduct the experiment because it didn't feel natural. What feels natural if I'm just meeting someone out and about, at a pub, at the gym, those environments feel more natural. But to just go up to a stranger that I have no clue who they are, what they're about, and spark some sort of conversation, that was terrifying even for myself.
Pickup artists will often film cold approaches in big city centres, especially in summer when women are sitting in parks and public spaces. They call it day gaming. I grew up in London, so this has happened to me multiple times as a teenager and as an adult when I've been minding my own business walking through central London alone. And I have no idea if I've been filmed during these interactions. Most of the time, it feels like harassment, because the pickup artists I've interacted with see the word no as a jumping off point for negotiation or a challenge that they can overcome, as opposed to what it actually is, a no. In Mike's video, he does take the woman's no as a no and leaves them alone, which is great. I mean, the bar is on the floor when we were applauding this, but here we are. Interestingly, in Mike's video, every single woman's face is exposed bar one, which is blurred out.
Yeah, so for all of them, they consent to being in the video beforehand, but that doesn't mean that they can't still consent after and be like, I don't want to be in the video, especially it's getting a lot of traction, which the video did, and I didn't know that was going to happen. So with that particular person, she wrote to me that she didn't want to be in the video, so we just blurred her out and we went on from there.
I can't be sure if Mike's telling the truth here when he says he got the women's consent. And I'm not going to invade the privacy of these women by finding out their identities and contacting them. So I'm going to have to take his word for it. And the more I spoke to Mike, the more I got the sense that he kind of hated filming this video and that he maybe regrets it.
People can go see it because if I'm speaking from my experience, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel genuine. And if I'm being honest, I never had to necessarily cold approach in my life, but I realized that a lot of my clients really just don't know how to have conversation or know how to, or want to be able that they can approach, women that they're attracted to and have it lead somewhere. Obviously they're very trendy. They go viral. My video did what it did, but I just realized that, I want to deviate away from that and just put the work on just us controlling what we can control and just working on our inner self first.
Now, I want to be clear that I'm not trying to set Mike up here as a terrible person for using Meta smart glasses. I don't think he is a terrible person. I actually really got on with Mike, and he was respectful of my views and how at times they were different to his. I think Mike, like most people, just isn't aware of the extent of abuse women can experience online and the risks involved with filming women and uploading it. There's also this pattern of men being so deep in the so-called game of online dating advice that they basically forget women are people, not bowling pins you're trying to knock down in a strike. And the more pickup artist content I watched, the more I noticed that when these men talk about their conquests, there's just no consideration of the women's feelings whatsoever. Instead, it's always about the men's self-development, improving their self-confidence. It sounds like self-help, right? That's because it is. Pickup artist content is self-help, thinly veiled as dating advice. This is the intro to a cold approach video where the creator is addressing his male followers.
This is about you and yourself. It's about you versus you. You are your own biggest obstacle. So what we're trying to do here is get you over your fear, get you doing the right things. Right now, your main goal is to master yourself, master your own emotions, master your fear, and take action in spite of it. Okay? So be patient with yourself and understand this is your journey with yourself and against yourself. It's not about anybody but you. And if you do the right thing, be proud of yourself regardless of the result. Step 1, leave the house. Now that seems really obvious, really basic, really intuitive, but the fact of the matter is most guys don't even do that. They sit around in their living rooms thinking about doing this, and they don't even get to the step 1 of meeting the girl, seeing the girl, having the opportunity to approach.
If you didn't know he was a pickup artist, you would presume this was a motivational video by a self-help guru, right? And Mike calls himself a dating coach or a transformational coach because there's so much self-help involved. After Mike takes on a new client, he transforms his whole life. He gives him a diet plan, a gym routine, takes him shopping for a new wardrobe, and then takes them to get a haircut. He gets to know them and their past relationship history, and he builds up their confidence. And at the end of it all, he takes them on a photo shoot and sets up their dating app profile.
When I'm doing my makeovers, I spend a lot of hours with my clients. Typically, especially they're coming in person and flying in from town, out of town. We're looking at like between 20 and 30 hours spent, over the weekend. And we're just talking about everything. I'm talking about their past dating, how they view dating, what they're looking for, what they want. And I'm able to then give my expert advice on just how to navigate dating, how to navigate providing, leading, emotional vulnerability. If you're not healed, go to therapy. The men I choose to work with, right? They just want to feel seen. And they just want to be and feel desired. And then with a lot of my men, they just want to feel appreciated, respected. So with a lot of my clients, they're at where they're at because of a lack of effort. And this is where I'm actually learning from my female counterparts and peers where, man, I'm on dating apps and men are not really putting much effort. Like, what are these photos? I hear the criticism. I just take what I've listened, what I've seen, what people say out online, and just tell them, they're exactly telling you guys what they're looking for, what they want, right? They want you to put effort into how your skincare. Have clean, nice skin. Why wouldn't you want to put effort into your skincare or your hair or how you dress?
This is just like Queer Eye for the straight guy, right? But with Mike, it's straight guy for the straight guy because he uses terms like high value male. But I genuinely really like what Mike is doing. I think it's great. You know why? Because Mike is doing the labor of the ex-girlfriend. Most women will have a story about dating a guy in her early 20s that they had to teach how to cook, how to clean up after himself, how to wash himself properly, and how to communicate. And when you break up, he's the perfect ready-made man for the next girlfriend who walks into his life. And the thing is, men can learn these skills themselves, but they choose not to because cooking, cleaning, talking about my feelings, those are feminine traits. It's more important that I'm intelligent, aka I can list off facts about World War II. And if my mum doesn't teach me these skills, then another woman will. And we do. When we're young and in love, we absolutely do. Thankfully, though, more and more women are talking about this really openly. How we expect better now, how we expect men to arrive in our lives as fully formed human beings, not someone who we have to mother into a capable adult. And that's what Mike is doing, filling in that gap. Ideally, though, men would take the initiative to learn these skills themselves or, just listen to what women want. But at the very least, they're paying Mike instead of expecting a woman to do it for free. In one of Mike's videos, he sets up his client's dating app profile and uses a photo of this guy cooking, which I thought was really interesting. I asked Mike what he thinks about men who still see domestic skills like cooking as feminine.
I definitely think it's very masculine. And the masculine aspect of it is that you're able to just provide and take care, right? Why not be good at everything? Why not learn how to cook? Why not learn how to provide? Everyone should know how to cook for themselves, first and foremost, right? If you know how to cook in yourself and you know how to cook for your partner, I have a beautiful relationship right now that I've been in for the last year. I'm going to cook for the people I care about.
But, and of course there's a but, while Mike is doing the labor of the ex-girlfriend, he is still promoting a masculinity that's pretty conservative. He talks about men as protectors and providers, and he encourages them to get muscly, to dress in what he calls an old money style, and he says that women want men who earn big salaries and always pay for them on dates. It plays into this 80-20 rule that men in online manosphere groups talk about all the time. It's the idea that 80% of women are only interested in 20% of men, meaning the richest, the most muscly, and the most alpha. And the remaining 80% of men supposedly compete for the remaining 20% of women, making dating much harder for men. Can I just say, me and every other woman I know is looking for whatever the exact opposite of an alpha male is. To his credit, Mike was really up for being challenged on his idea of desirable masculinity. I told him I thought that the idea of men being our protectors was flawed because our partners and ex-partners are the people most likely to kill us. And he was well aware of that. I also told him how his use of the word provider made me cringe a little bit because it implies the woman is kept. A provider needs a housewife to provide for. I don't want to ever be financially dependent on a man because it limits my freedom to escape. And look, I know that some women on TikTok are trying to reframe men paying for everything as empowering. It isn't. It will always play into the conservative gender roles of the provider and the homemaker. Mike and I talked about how if a man pays for the bill, sometimes there's this expectation of sex in return. And if you don't have sex with him, he'll resent you or pressure you to do so.
I hear about the whole 50-50 and all these things, but when it comes to dating, I think, man, we should just cover the tab. We work hard to be able to take care of, and I think that we should lead in that way. I'm very old school in like the old romantic type of loving way where it's like, I'm always going to pay for everything. They have so much going on in their life where if I can make their day as easy as possible by just taking care of a lot of the things and making them being able to just be like a butterfly and not being so stressed and, built up. I dislike this whole, if someone does something, something is then owed or the girl feels in debt. I don't like that. It shouldn't have to be this game or like, you go do this and now let me get this back in return.
Mike is planning on working with women clients soon, and he has a message for any women listening.
You guys hold the power. It's your body, your choice. You guys hold the power. So what I want to say out loud is, women, for whoever may be watching or might be seeing this episode, hold out. Don't feel like you owe anything. Don't feel like because you don't have to. And if someone pays for you or does whatever for you, you do not owe them a single thing. You do not owe them a single thing. And don't ever feel like you got to explain yourself. Just don't.
Most of Mike's videos are him talking to camera and giving advice to men, or it's a before and after makeover video with one of his clients. And I'm talking a 360 life makeover, because these guys are transformed both superficially and emotionally. But despite the queer-eyedness of it all, Mike says high-value male a lot. This is another term for your alpha male podcaster bro bingo cards. And I have never, ever heard this term being used without someone saying something wildly misogynistic after. It's referring to that top 20% of men theory. And the usual take is something like, a high-value male provides for his family and protects his woman. A high-value female has a low body count, or even better, she's a virgin. And she's not at the club wasting her fertile years. She's at home cooking, ready to be wifed up and submit to her man. If your TikTok feed has a man shouting at you about high-value males, get out. You're on the bad side of the internet.
So for me, a high value man is classified as someone that is extremely hardworking, does very well for himself, successful in his career, successful with his hobbies, and essentially can provide and take care of their counterparts, right? How many times do we hear of women ideally wanting a man that was very hardworking, very driven, able to make over 6 figures, and they associate that with being able to provide and take care of them and be able to raise a family.
I asked him what he thinks a high-value female is.
Honestly, for me, the general consensus might not agree with me here, but for me, a high-value female is one that is also driven, one that has emotional intelligence, one that understands her wants, needs, and desires, and one that understands that she does not need a partner. She can function on her own. She is not dependent on anybody.
There were times in my conversation with Mike where I was unsure if this was his actual honest opinion, or if he looked me up online and had self-policed before he spoke. His expectations of men are so much more old-fashioned than his expectations of women, and while I like that he's teaching his clients to learn domestic and emotional skills, how much does that really do for progress if he's still encouraging men to lean into these patriarchal pressures around masculinity, like to provide for your wife and get super ripped? Mike is part of this modern, internet-born kind of manhood, which has cherry-picked a few elements like being very well groomed, but the old baggage is still there. Like the modern online man, the Love is Blind, Love Island kind of guy, he has a 10-step skincare routine, but he still expects to protect and provide for his woman. He clearly felt remorse about the cold approach video, and he told me he had a girlfriend while filming it, and it was all just a social experiment for his work, to improve his craft. And like every other pickup artist video, it's not about how the women feel, it's about men's self-development. But why do women always have to suffer in the name of men's self-help? Why are we always the rehab centers and the lab rats for men to exploit for their own gain? Why is it that for women, self-help advice typically involves decentering men from your life altogether, but for men, it puts women bang in the center? But not as people, as mannequins for you to workshop your confidence against, while you film the entire thing. Which brings me on to my next guest, man number 2. This took a slightly different turn to my conversation with Mike.
Hello, so I make fighting videos, MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, all of it, and I just document my raw experience and try and just tell a good story and motivate others to do the same.
This is Joe. I've changed his name, but that wasn't what we originally planned. I'll get into why later. I watched his cold approach video and I asked to speak to him.
So a cold approach is going to a woman, or if you're a girl, going to a man, and just go into them with the intention to pull. Yeah, that's all it is really. Go up to them, try and get their number, practice your game, whatnot. My game was terrible in that video. I watch it and cringe back, but this is what I love about progress. As a kid, I've always been into like video games, and in video games, it's all about progress, isn't it? And just, I like to see progress in all areas, not just fighting, women, business, because I think they all interlink to making you better in general, a better person as well.
Like Mike, Joe is not a pickup artist, but he'd made this video because he knew it would get loads of views, which it did. Most of Joe's channel is about boxing, and he posts various YouTube-style challenges like survive in London with me for 2 days with only £10, stuff like that. And just like Mike, there's a heavy emphasis on self-development in Joe's content. Joe filmed the women he approached too, but he didn't use Meta smart glasses. He got his friend to film it on his phone, like the good old days.
So I love to have friends that are like influencers as well, and a lot of them actually are pickup coaches. So it's actually nerve-wracking because it's unnatural when you have a camera speaking to a girl. Speaking to a girl, it shouldn't be hard, but nowadays it is for some reason. But with a camera added on, it's extra pressure. So I really don't like cold approaching on camera, but I do it a lot now in person, and there's a lot more genuine interactions. So I wouldn't suggest doing it on camera, but definitely men out there should just approach all the time, because it's the skills you gain from it are transferable. Like the confidence can help you in business and fighting. 80% is getting the foot through the door, saying the first line to the girl, and then obviously you got to close.
Closing is getting her number, like closing a deal, because if you're a man, everything is about the business mindset. The Wall Streetification of dating, if you will. You'll notice here that Joe is talking about the women he approached in a similar kind of dehumanizing way that I mentioned. This idea that we're props in these men's quests to build their confidence, that approaching us in public and filming it is a transferable skill and a key part of self-development. I asked Joe if he got the women's consent when he filmed them. He said he didn't, but unlike Mike, his video is filmed from further away, so at least the women's faces aren't totally recognizable.
I think part of the fun is the mystery, and like, if they know they're being filmed, they're gonna act different. It's less genuine, which is a shame, but like, it's a tough discussion because no one wants to be filmed if they don't want to be filmed. But yeah, I don't know.
In Joe's cold approach video, he collabs with a friend and fellow YouTube content creator, and his friend uses the same line over and over again on every woman he approaches, which I thought was really funny. He goes, "Excuse me, do you know where the nearest Nando's is?" And then the woman would say no, and he'd go, "Actually, I just think you're really beautiful. Can I get your number?" And then they'd say no again, obviously. And my first thought watching this was, why does no one know where Nando's is? There are so many Nando's in London. But obviously, the women are just trying to get rid of him, and I do the same in their position. In the game, this is called an indirect opener. It starts the conversation, but doesn't directly address that you find her attractive.
If you're going to approach a woman, you have to make her comfortable because they get approached all the time. You got to have a bit of like comfort. And then once they trust you, you can switch it up a bit. If they say they have a boyfriend, it's a good go-to excuse, or they actually have a boyfriend. So women, they might be afraid of these guys, so it's like an easy cop-out. I'm not blaming them for saying it. So I got quite a bit of an ego, and if I get rejected, honestly, I'll just go my way, because it's like digging yourself a deeper hole. There's loops in my game that I saw after. You only connect the dots looking back, and you learn a lot from just personal experience. When it hurts more, that's when you learn more. That's why pain and suffering is good. You only just realise it's good looking backwards. I've been around a lot of pickup artists recently, and one key point I've learned is women don't actually like nice guys. Women want to be stimulated, and they want to play games because they get bored quite quick. I've been nice all my life, which has only got me so far. Nice guys get run over, so like, not run over, pushed over. Now you got social media, women have hundreds of men messaging them, so they're instantly in their own head are higher on the hierarchy. So there's a lot more pressure on men to compete against these other people. Because there's men like, the girls are getting messaged by people with loads of money, cars, whatnot. It's a new day and age.
I know that women like me are not the target audience for men like Joe, but in the hope that it would leave some sort of impression, I told him that me and my friends only date nice guys. Women do like nice guys, but what we don't like is transactional niceness, where men feel entitled to sex as a reward for their niceness. This myth of treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen is all over pickup artistry, where men are told to emotionally manipulate women as part of the chase. And the thing is, these kinds of attitudes don't stop here. It's a seed that can grow into abusive behaviors like coercive control. But just like my conversation with Mike, Joe has this idea that men need to have money, cars, and muscles to get women. I don't know how many times I need to say this, but most women do not care about this. However, men do, and that is exactly the point. This aspiration of hypermasculinity is playing to the male power fantasy, where you flex your muscles and show off the woman as a prop on your arm to impress other men. And despite women saying over and over again that we want men who are kind, empathetic, men who are non-violent, and who will defend our human rights, despite this, men are still prioritizing what impresses other men. But there's a quote that summarizes this far better than I ever could, by Marilyn Fry from The Politics of Reality, Essays in Feminist Theory. To say that straight men are heterosexual is only to say that they engage in sex exclusively with women. All of that which pertains to love, most straight men reserve exclusively for other men. The people whom they admire, respect, adore, revere, honor, whom they imitate, idolize, and form profound attachments to, whom they are willing to teach and from whom they are willing to learn, and whose respect, admiration, recognition, honor, reverence, and love they desire, those are overwhelmingly other men. From women, they want devotion, service, and sex. Heterosexual male culture is homoerotic. It is man-loving. So back to Joe's self-development journey.
This is why I think pickup artistry is brilliant. You don't have to film it, but just go and speak to girls. Arm yourself with those things to give you a higher chance. And it's the same with everything in life. I'm trying to arm myself with the chance of getting my wife, my dreams of YouTube, winning the fights, all of it. It's like in boxing and fighting, there's loads of different fighting styles. But your style, like, you gotta arm yourself with basic attacks and basic counters. Maybe they don't work for all styles, but it's better to increase your chances and have them there and arm yourself with the things that are going to increase your chances than not trying at all.
Ah, yes, the classic comparing dating women to punching someone in the face. Always a reassuring sign.
Fighting and making money just sets you up in life to be able to provide the best you can. I really want kids, yeah. That's something I'm not rushing my future, but I can't wait to have kids. Honestly, I think I'd be a great dad. I know I'll be a great dad. Just from like all the stuff I go through, and like it's good character building, fighting, and YouTube. There's so many failures that you have to get through, and it's all for one big goal, and that's just becoming the best version of myself and reproducing and looking after my kids. I want one good woman and my kids. It's every man's dream, and I'm just trying to set myself up and show my journey of becoming that and inspiring other people at the same time.
It kind of breaks my heart that Joe sees suffering and violence as a requirement for manhood. And as you can imagine, pretty soon into my conversation with him, my palms started to sweat. That Alpha Male Podcast Bro bingo card I was talking about, I was ticking things off one after the other. And I was getting the sense he was a bit red-pilled, meaning he was buying into misogynistic conspiracy theory style narratives about men and women. And the thing is, Joe's YouTube content is actually really apolitical. The vibe is just an upbeat guy who does viral YouTube challenges. Aside from his one cold approach video, you just wouldn't expect this from him. To get a better sense of where this conversation was going, I asked him about masculinity and how he would define it.
So masculinity to me is just strength, courage, and all the things I believe a man should be to make the world a better place and just provide for the people. Like, one of the main goals, obviously you got all the other stuff, but is to reproduce as a male and then look after your children and whatnot and your wife. Yeah, so I think women are in their happiest when they're in their most feminine. So like when they don't have to worry about a lot of stuff and they can just live in peace, then I believe they'll be more happier. Obviously, get a job, what you want. We're in a new age. But I think my woman, I want her to be happy. And if I need to make loads of money, get shredded, all that, then so be it. I think it comes back to social media. Like, it's created a big divide, social media, between men and women. Like, it's almost like it's a war. We're competing. Your page is going to be completely different to mine with polar opposite views. And it's like, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be at war with each other, you know what I mean?
Joe loves mixed martial arts and kickboxing. And guess who else started out in MMA and kickboxing? Human trafficker, far-right influencer, homophobe and extremist misogynist Andrew Tate.
Yeah, obviously Andrew Tate, a very touchy subject. I really like him. Like, I've got a lot of value from him. I listened to Andrew Tate's PhD course. You'll get results listening to his stuff because it's not what you want to hear, but a lot of it is true. Like, the world is not black and white, but there are ways you can increase your chances. And I listened to his course and it made so much sense. A lot of the modern day stuff is designed to make us less masculine. Like, I know a lot of people really don't like him, which I can understand from the clips they might have seen. However, for me personally, in this entrepreneurial, making money, fighting, you've really got to put yourself first. But like, just his motivation and stuff and his attitude toward discipline and suffering. Say you watch Tate, he's going to tell you to get back up and life is hard. And he just tells you, like, he just motivates you and says the stuff you need to hear. It's like, I've read the book The Secret. I don't know if you read that book. Yeah, brilliant book. It's whatever you believe in, the universe, God, karma. They're all similar, but I just like to bracket under God and pray to God every night. Thank God for my accomplishments. Glory to God. We have all this divide in the world, but at the end of the day, why give your negative energy into politics and feminism, all that stuff, when In life, what really matters is your own influence of control. You've got your own life, and that's the main thing you should be focusing most your energy on. A lot of these people want a community, a sense of community, and something to put their negative energy into, but realistically, just put it into yourself and go to a fighting gym, for example.
By the way, the PhD course Joe is referring to stands for Pimpin' Hoes Degree. It's an online course in the form of podcast episodes, and it teaches you how to meet and hit on women, how to set up a successful business, and it does the whole how to be an alpha male crap. Joe, like many men, admires the Tate brothers because they're self-made. They came from nothing and made millions. He also likes the book The Secret, which makes total sense because The Secret is a self-help book. It sold millions of copies worldwide. There was a film adaptation, and Oprah even featured it on her show. It's all about the law of attraction and how you can apparently cure serious illnesses or get rich all through the power of positive thinking. It's the perfect recipe for someone like Joe because it's conspiracy theory meets self-help, just like Andrew Tate. Throughout my entire conversation with Joe, he is so devoted to this journey of self-development, and he throws out self-help buzzwords left, right, and center. And when you visit one of Andrew Tate's many websites, like The Real World, which is referring to the Matrix and the Red Pill theory, you'll see something very similar. Here's a quote from Andrew Tate's 41 Tenets on his website, which is basically his version of Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. I choose my company and include only those whom I believe are best for my health, happiness, and success. Each day, I dedicate myself anew to create the greatest possible positive impact in the world and do the work necessary to achieve a greater masculine excellence across all realms of human endeavor. This is self-help. And I don't say this to detract from Andrew Tate's violent misogynistic extremism, but instead to highlight that self-help is an entry point to misogyny. It is a gateway. Joe asked me what I thought about Andrew Tate, and this really took me by surprise. I didn't know what Joe's views were on this subject before I interviewed him. He doesn't praise Andrew Tate on his YouTube channel, and none of my pre-planned questions that I sent to Joe in advance were about Andrew Tate. I think what happened is Joe also looked me up online, thought I was going to grill him, and when I didn't, he relaxed and opened up to me probably more than he expected to. So when he asked me this question, I tried my best to be honest with him without mentioning misogyny, because I know that's such a turn-off for so many men. So instead, I tried to focus on how maybe Andrew Tate was taking Joe's money and it was a con.
What are your thoughts on Andrew Tate?
My thoughts on Andrew Tate is that I think he's very clever at marketing. I think I would describe him as like a grifter. So I would describe him as a kind of like similar vein as like an anti-vax influencer or conspiracy theorist. I would say that he's in that group. I think he's very good at using the internet to promote his views. I think that he's really identified a gap in the market which actually exists, which is that men don't have much guidance at all, especially young men. I think that's a shame. I think Andrew Tate has noticed that. I think he's capitalized on it in a way that I feel isn't very honest. I don't think he's thinking about the best intentions for the men that he's working with. I can see what the appeal is with him. I can see why he's giving men confidence, independence, helping them create goals for their future, whether that's financially or just like in their self-confidence. But I feel that he's taken advantage of lack of education and support around masculinity and how to be a good partner, how to be a good man. And I feel that he's weaponized it and is taking advantage of men. That's how I feel. But I completely understand if you disagree.
So why have I anonymized Joe? When I was 23, I started uploading cartoons online, and by 24, I had over 100,000 followers, and my account was discovered by some men's rights groups on various corners of the internet, including one that's now been removed because of its association with Jake Davidson, the 2021 Plymouth shooter whose ideas were aligned with black-pilled incels. I got loads of abusive messages, including explicit death threats, sexual assault threats, and photos of my face that I still, to this day, don't know how these men managed to get hold of. I decided to learn more about the men threatening me. Maybe it was a safety thing of feeling like you need to keep your enemies close, or maybe I felt like understanding it as an ideology would stop the abuse from feeling so personal. So I learned as much as I could. and I published a free educational pamphlet with cartoons that would hopefully help parents and teachers spot the signs, challenge these kinds of misogynistic ideas, and interrupt the victim narrative. I published it in 2021, so it's a little dated, but I still agree with the bare bones of it. The demand for this pamphlet was huge, and something I noticed was a deep misunderstanding about the online entry point for young men. There seemed to be this idea that teenage boys were discovering misogynistic influences by just sitting down on their computer and basically Googling, "I hate women." But so much of it is actually self-help. It is self-help and it's community. Those are the key entry points. I thought about not using my conversation with Joe at all, but I decided to leave it in and anonymize him instead, because I think it's helpful for those teachers and those parents who I know are a significant portion of my followers and listeners, who want to understand this world better. I anonymized Joe because he hasn't publicly shared his admiration of Andrew Tate before. This was something he chose to reveal to me in the moment. Joe is 21, he is so young, and I don't want that on his internet record. I don't want people to Google his name and for this to be associated with him. And I've been very publicly online throughout my entire 20s, and I know what it's like. Some of the stuff I was spouting at 21 was so dumb. But Joe is so driven, and he gave me his time, and he was polite and kind to me. And he's just this young guy with big dreams, but in his search for guidance and self-development, he's been deeply misled. And I want to give him time to turn things around. When I first reached out to Joe, I got the sense he was keen to be involved because he thought we would get him more YouTube views or Instagram followers. I think he imagined a rage bait, clickbaity Charlie Kirk style debate, like woke feminist takes on male YouTuber. But he quickly realized that is just not my style. And I could tell he was relieved, despite all of his chat about how much he loves to fight.
Honestly, I was ready to be grilled a bit because from our views, it's evident we have some different views. But like you say, if we had a conversation in real life, who knows, we probably come to a lot of agreements. But it was lovely speaking to you, yeah. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I don't know if Joe or Mike, aka Hitch Academy, will listen to this episode. If they do, I hope that hearing Clare talk about meta-smart glasses and women navigating online abuse makes them think twice about cold approach videos next time. I really hope Mike stays in touch with me because I would love to know how it goes being a dating coach for women. If I'm honest though, I don't know if women really need his help. What Mike does for these men is what women get from our friendships with other women for free. We talk through our past relationships, we help each other with our style and self-confidence, and we take photos of each other for our dating app profiles. And I think it says so much that men are having to seek out and pay for this as a service because their friendships are failing to provide that. These men don't have community, not the good kind anyway. Instead, there are bad men opening their arms to people like Joe and promising a brotherhood as long as he adopts their worldview and promotes their grift in return. I've been thinking about how Joe, our 21-year-old, should actually get in contact with Mike. Because while Mike did make a cold approach video and his views on masculinity were a little more conservative than mine, I think Joe is more likely to listen to Mike than he is me. Mike represents everything Joe admires, a successful self-made man with a business mindset. And I know that Mike would kindly and gently tell Joe to cut the crap with the Andrew Tate stuff. Mike could bridge the gap, a little less alpha, a little more queer eye for the straight guy. Thanks for tuning in to No Worries If Not. Thanks to our guests, Clare McGlynn, Michael Asabuo, and Joe. The theme music was by Meg Jenkins. The title animations were by Angelica Lena. The script editors were my mum, Jackie O'Farrell, and Will Hilton, also produced by Will Hilton. No Worries If Not is written and hosted by me, Lily O'Farrell. If you've been affected by online image-based abuse like deepfake porn or revenge porn, contact the Revenge Porn Helpline. They have a phone line that's open from Monday to Friday, an email and a live chat service. You can find more details at revengepornhelpline.org.uk.